Recording in progress.
Yo, what up? What up, folks? I'm your boy Trey Frazier. I got my brother Maestro Styles here with me today.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, welcome. It's another episode of the Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. We're live streaming on our YouTube page, our Twitter handle at Barbershop SPOR2, and on our Facebook page. Make sure y'all continue to follow us on those platforms. And you can also follow us on our Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. What's good, Maestro? What's
Cooling, man. Cooling, man. Just out here, Rick Rossing it.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Hey, I ain't gonna front, bruh. This 40 thing, man, it feels good, man. I just gotta say, man.
2 days
you.
in.
What's up?
I said 2 days in, and you notice a significant difference.
No, I just said it feels good. I didn't say that I feel a significant difference. I'm just saying, like, it just feels, it feels good. I don't feel any different, last week than I do now. If you guys have been living under a rock, I had a surprise birthday party, and, the homie Maestro came through along with some of the other homies, family, other friends, and stuff like that. So, appreciate y'all. And also appreciate everyone that's out there, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, to wish me happy birthday and all that good stuff. So, appreciate the love. Let's, I guess we could get into it, man. Had some good game. Well, I don't want to say some good games. A couple of those games with some trash, to say the least.
Unless you were a fan of the winner, unless you were a fan of the winner.
Yeah, exactly. But before we, get into a little bit of it, we do have a guest coming on in about 10 minutes. So this gentleman, he's a sports journalist with the Philadelphia Tribune. He goes by the name of OJ Spivey. He's done a lot of sports articles in the city up there. Covers the Eagles, Sixers, and, all sports, all things Philly. So he's going to come on and kind of talk about his sports journalistic journey, as well as what he saw against the Giants the other night. The Eagles are in a conference championship game against the Niners, and we'll talk some Sixers and, some other stuff there. So speaking of which, I guess the best game was San Francisco and Dallas.
Yeah.
Of the weekend. That was the best game. I gotta tell you, I think the difference really in this game for me, Tony Pollard twisting that knee and that ankle. That's one of your home run hitters, and you lose that guy, and you stuck with Zeke Elliott, who is not the same Zeke like we once knew him to be. It's gonna slow your offense down. It's definitely gonna do that. I do think on that final drive, though, I don't know what the hell they was doing in that formation on the final play. Dak Prescott again falls short. And as much as I want to root for the black quarterbacks, he got to get called to the carpet, man. It's somewhat that Kirk Cousins syndrome in a sense, like. You need to go the length of the field. Why are you throwing short with that, limited amount of time left?
Let me backtrack for a second. In your mind, the biggest reason they lost was Tony Pollard and not Dak Prescott?
I think you could blame it on both, to be honest. But if I had to go to the biggest reason, I would say Tony Pollard, because you've been counting on Tony Pollard throughout this season, and to get up to this point. Tony Pollard is, like I said, he's the guy that's gonna, he's the explosive weapon on your offense. It's not CeeDee Lamb, it's not Dalton Schultz, it's Tony Pollard.
I'm not saying that Tony Pollard didn't have, like, him being injured definitely had an effect on the Cowboys losing, but for me, man, it's Dak Prescott, bruh.
I respect that.
Look, and with Wild, I don't think CeeDee Lamb is a number one receiver yet, and I think he's going to get there. He is definitely an explosive piece to that offense, so I'm gonna disagree with you on that too. But more to what you said as far as him being like the Kirk Cousins syndrome, that's just it. Let's be clear. That was a game that was put into Dak Prescott's hand as the leader of this team to win.
Yeah.
Not Tony Pollard, not CeeDee Lamb or Dalton Schultz or Zeke Elliott. This was Dak's opportunity to all anybody who doubt that maybe he's not one of the top tier quarterbacks. Like, this was his opportunity to prove it. And quite honestly, is he still a top 10? I guess maybe
He's number 10 if you put him in the top 10.
maybe, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't say his performance knocked him a couple of tiers down, and I also and I understand that a few of them interceptions weren't his fault, but I am fully hold him culpable for when it was time to make something happen. Things weren't happening. That's on quarterback play.
Yeah, the interceptions, and I don't want to forget that too. You brought it up, but I think those were critical turnovers. I mean, because it happened just as they were, driving down the field to, go for a score there. I don't want to hear about the kicker situation. I mean, he had the extra. What was it? It was the extra point that was blocked, right?
Yeah,
and not the field goal. Yeah,
we'd be lying if that wasn't if we'd be lying if we were saying that's not a problem. That's a problem.
No, I get
not
it. It's a problem.
Your kicker is a problem.
Yeah,
but that's that. I mean,
and the psyche of it is a problem, but
sure,
that had no effect
in the grand
on the
scheme of things. And to even push the I guess push the conversation. I didn't think that Dallas was going to beat San Fran, but if they were because quite frankly they were the better team, and they were making the plays on offense and defense to prove that they were the better team. Dallas defense did what they were supposed to do for the most part.
I was gonna say, because and I said it last week, this was gonna be the toughest defense that the 49ers have faced in this 11-game win streak now. This was the toughest defense, and you saw some of that for about up to 3/4 of that football game.
I mean, you have to give credit to. If it's not known, Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in the league. And he figured it out. It took a little while. That's a good defense in Dallas. That's a good fucking defense.
Yeah.
But I remember that last, it was a 90-yard drive, and I tweeted as soon as I seen him get in the end zone. I said, he figured this defense out.
So that was the McCaffrey touchdown, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
McCaffrey
so that's
touchdown.
The same drive that George Kittle, and I thought that was a major turning point, not only in the drive, but the game. The George Kittle catch over the middle where he bobbled it maybe 3-4 times and then just ultimately made this spectacular catch. Like, if Kittle doesn't grab that, who knows how that drive ends. Maybe the Cowboys get off the field on third down and maybe the Cowboys get another shot there. But the fact that Kittle caught that and extended that drive for as longer as it did, I think that was a clear turning point in that drive, and it ultimately led to the McCaffrey touchdown.
Yeah, and then they went and then they came back and scored again. So for me, it was like
the field goal. Right?
Yeah, yep. I was like, they got this figured out. They know they're about it. They know how they're about to close this game out. And like I said, they went right back down the field, and like you said, got a field goal. But you could tell the wind was coming out of the sails in Dallas. And like I said, kudos to Shanahan and offensive scheme, and kudos to the defense. That defense, made plays.
Yeah.
Point blank period. Made
Yeah.
plays.
The second to last Dallas drive where they went 3-and-out, that, like, for Dak Prescott, like, that was the moment. Like, that was the time to put something together and kind of not so much cement the legacy, but create a legacy for yourself there. Like, that was a big boy drive. And the fact that they went 3-and-out right there, I'll be honest, I did not think that they was going to see the ball. And had Elijah Mitchell not ran out of bounds to stop the clock, that game would have been over. They wouldn't even had a chance to line up however they lined up. Got Ezekiel Elliott killed right there.
Yeah.
And I mean that play, that formation had no shot.
Got CD pop.
Yeah, right. Like, it's like that had no chance of working. I mean, they would have better off just won.
I won't say that it had no chance of working. I don't know. Nothing developed for me to see if it could work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know that it had no shot. I mean, look, San Fran called a timeout.
Yep.
I
thought they was gonna change the formation up once the timeout happened. I thought, they figured it out. Let's just go traditional. And they came back and they tried this same formation.
I mean, look, man. Look, if it would have worked, we'd be having a different conversation. So I'm not going. I don't know what that play could have been because San Fran sniffed it out so well, and I don't know if it was because San Fran's defense is so good or if it's because that play is so bad. I couldn't tell you just based on looking at the play.
Yeah, he got rid of the ball a bit quick, maybe quicker than what I.
Yeah, we got bull rushed because Zeke got bull rushed.
It was two guys, right? Or it was one guy that bull rushed him?
It was only one guy. He bull rushed Zeke. Like
it was one guy. Yeah. See, if it's
that's a tough situation for Zeke to be in. I'm not at all holding Zeke culpable for that.
I'm more so talking about could Dak have maybe 2 more seconds, wait for something to develop because. It was a quick.
He had time.
It was a quick giveaway.
Zeke was being pushed right in front of Dak. So I mean, could he have maybe slid?
I was gonna say slid to the side or something like that.
But it happened pretty fast. Like it was maybe 3 seconds. It was maybe by the time he took his 3-step drop.
Yeah.
Zeke was damn near in his face.
Yeah, that sucks.
I mean, it sucks for Dallas and
that play
fans.
Sucks. Yeah, and
it
that
sucks for Dallas fans. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yep. Another same old Cowboys. Still can't get over the hump. I don't know what they do from this point on. As far as the coach is concerned, I think the coach is safe in my opinion. I mean, back-to-back 12-5 seasons. I don't know how if you're Jerry, you get rid of him unless you think Sean Payton is gonna come out of retirement, which I don't think any of these openings. I don't think Sean Payton wants these current ones right now, so I don't see that happening. So
yeah, he's fine.
I think he's safe.
Him and Kellen Moore are fine. I think him and Kellen Moore are fine. I think even though I have seen that Kellen Moore's been taking interviews, I think Kellen Moore's fine. Look. Dallas isn't a bad team. Dallas does have to figure. They do have to figure out what they're going to do to help Dak out. I mean, or is this offense it? I mean, look, a lot of people feel like this team on paper is a team that's good enough to go to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. In some respects, I'm one of them. It's just that Philly and San Fran are better teams right now or this year. But I think on paper, this team has what it takes to make the Super Bowl if San Fran or Philly wasn't as good as they were. So for me, where do they go? I think they just try to address what they consider to be weaknesses. I mean, I don't know. I don't watch enough of the Cowboys to decipher what is to be considered a weakness. Mm-hmm. What I do notice is that maybe their second cornerback Maybe they need some cornerback depth. Maybe that's not super great. Their cornerback depth.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, outside of that, I mean, is he going to stay at his price tag? Um, is Dalton Schultz? I mean, he's been a good, he's been a good tight end. He's been good this year, but
Mm-hmm.
um, is he going to take the next step next year? Like, I don't think they need to do much. I just think the pieces that are there need to step up.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you talk about like the rest of the receiving core minus CD Lamb. After Pollard went down, I was expecting for a number two receiver to kind of up his game a little bit because you knew they were gonna try to take away CD at some point in the game, and nobody else really showed itself out. Not even the tight end. So if anything, if there's a need, I would think you're looking at maybe a number two or number three receiver to maybe go along with that core. I don't know,
Yeah,
contractually what
I
their
don't agree.
situation
I
is.
think Gallup is a. I think in the receiving core, CD needs to become a number one. Michael Gallup is a good number two.
Mm-hmm.
Brown is a good number three. Like I don't think it's the receiving core. I don't think the receiving core as a symbol is the issue. I don't think they need to pick up anybody per se. I mean, look, if you could get somebody at a decent price, I mean, obviously you try to do what you can. But I really
Right.
think this team, um, if anything, they need to address safety and cornerback. But everything, I mean, offensive line is always something you want to try to improve on.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? But um, I just think the guys they have, the core guys that they have, which most of them are young, they need to step their game up.
Yeah. I hear you there. Um, so I heard Darren Waller might be available. The Raiders are possibly thinking about cleaning house. I also heard Hunter Renfro's name being thrown out there as a guy that they might trade. If you're Dallas and you think you can upgrade a position that maybe you don't think maybe needs one, if Waller's available, I'll take Darren Waller over Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know what the compensation would be, because Darren Waller hasn't necessarily. Well, he was hurt
Yeah,
for a few games this year, so
yeah.
I would imagine that price tag to get him wouldn't be that much. Maybe second rounder and a player, or maybe a couple separate second rounders or something like that.
I definitely get rid. I mean, if you get Darren Waller, there's no need for Schultz. I mean, I would imagine if
Or
it's a
right,
trade situation.
Schultz. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be the player that would go in that deal there. So
absolutely,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So let's welcome our guest here. As he gets himself set up here, from the Philadelphia Tribune, sports writer, journalist, OJ Spivey is here in the building with us. Covers all things Philly, from Eagles to Sixers and everything else. OJ, thank you for joining us, man. I see you're still trying to get yourself set up, but if you're all good, man, how you been?
All good. All good, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
All good. No worries,
It's
man.
all
No
good,
worries.
man. We familiar with that kind of stuff, man. I do want to congratulate you though, because I did see that you were nominated for best sports journalist from it's called the Pen and Pencil Club. Can you tell me a little bit about that organization? Because I've seen a lot of other Philly media people in those nomination lists.
Yes. So, Pen and Pencil Club is basically a long-time club for journalists to get together, socialize. It's been around for well over 100 years. Basically, every year, despite the pandemic, of course,
Yeah.
they have these awards, which is called the Philly News Awards. So it's about, I believe, about 10 different categories to where you get nominated, and they'll have a big celebration this week, and they'll announce the awards. Of course, it's a voting scenario. So as much people as you get to vote and everything. Hopefully, I had enough people who enjoy my work, where they'll vote for me, and we'll just see what happens. But on a personal level, it's just an honor and a pleasure just to be nominated because I'm in a good group of journalists as well. So
that's what's up.
thank you.
Congratulations, man. We'll go right into OJ, man. What was your start? Tell us about your journey.
Well, I have an interesting journey, a bit of an unorthodox journey. I didn't get into this business until basically my late 30s. I'm age 50 now. So, and being that I didn't go to a 4-year college or anything, I cut my teeth in broadcast school. But after I went to broadcast school, it's basically a crash course with TV, radio, everything. It took me a while to just kind of get into the business, try to break into the business, which is pretty tough for a late bloomer like myself. For example, all I wanted to do was just try to get into radio somehow, and try to catch on with, at least just a promotions team or something with one of the local radio stations. But I never got any calls back or anything. So my thought process was, let me just try to do this on my own. And this is all while working full time, my daughter was small at the time and everything. So I'm just trying to navigate through and just get my foot in the door somewhere, somehow. So this was about late 2000. So basically, fast forward to 2009, here comes what we call now as podcasts. I'll get to that in a moment. But there was this little, I'm not going to say little, but there was this online network. In those days, they called it online radio. And a friend of mine was doing a bit of a talk show on a platform called Blog Talk Radio, which some of you guys may remember. So he had knew what I was trying to do. And he said, why don't you just try and do your own thing through Blog Talk Radio? So that was a platform where you can just do an hour or two. And in those days, again, they called it online radio. And it's just so funny. I won't call myself a pioneer because there were thousands of people on that network. But, I just started out pretty much by myself. Ended up finding a co-host who was based in Atlanta. And we had a good rapport together. Diva D is her name. You can find her on social media, too. She's still a great friend of mine to this day. And for about a 3-year span, we had a very good talk show. And we were bringing guests and all. And from that point, a friend of mine who I actually coached Little League Baseball with here in Philadelphia, he heard my show, and he was doing a sports show on the weekends on one of the black radio stations here in Philadelphia. So he called me in and said, hey, why don't you fill in for one of my co-hosts one week? One thing led to another, and then I ended up posting that show here locally on WRD Radio, the only black talk station in Pennsylvania now. I ended up being on there for 4 years. And from that point on, that got me in the door to different avenues to where I was able to maybe cover this event, that event. And from there, I started covering more things. I got a good rapport with the Philadelphia Eagles and their communications department, where I would cover some of their charity events. I was able to cover some of their training camp, and also too, one thing leading to another. Everybody knows the online publication called Anscape, which used to be the Undefeated for quite a long time. And actually, one of my former guests on my podcast, my online radio show, became a editor at the Undefeated when they launched several years back. So she contacted me, needed a story. It happened to be on Malcolm Jenkins, who was doing a panel discussion. This was all through the whole Black Lives Matter movement back in 2016, 2017. And, he was talking at a panel. He was amongst a panel at Temple University, and she needed somebody to cover it. So I ended up covering it, being that I had no true journalistic experience. I did some blogging here and there, but just as far as just writing an article for a major publication, I was scared as hell. Like, what am I going to do? Everything. And, it ended up being cool. 24 hours later, it was published on the Undefeated. Ended up doing several stories for them. And one thing led to another again. Doing radio hits here and there, media contributions with different radio stations here in Philadelphia. That got me in the door more, working for the Undefeated. That got me more in the door with covering things for the Philadelphia Eagles. And ended up covering training camp and all those things. And then going to this year, I've been with the Philadelphia Tribune, my current position, for about a year and a half now. And starting this past season in 2022, where, I started writing, sports articles, covering Eagles here and there, ended up being at training camp again. And then all of a sudden I'm in the press box covering the Eagles. And now here we are
Nice.
In the C championship game. And, it's a bit of a dream of mine. And of course, as a journalist, you have to stay objective, so to speak, but it's kind of hard when it's kind of hard when you're living your dream and you end up covering the team that you grew up rooting for, good, bad, and ugly, and all. And, even going back to their last Super Bowl title back in 2017, ended up covering the parade and everything, which, that was a surreal moment as well. Even just going back real quick to
you wasn't climbing the poles, man? You wasn't climbing the poles?
Nah, I'm a little too big to climb on the poles. But yeah, so look out for that this weekend. So Sunday night and everything, you might see, some footage of it happening again. The police try to grease the poles and everything. It doesn't work, guys.
Yeah.
So, where you guys are, whatever team ends up winning it again, don't grease the poles. You could just be a waste of Crisco or whatever it is. So
just let them tear the town up.
there you go. But long story short, another thing, getting my foot in the door and living a dream. I got to interview Julius Erving for the Undefeated.
Wow.
And
nice.
How crazy is that?
Wow,
Legend.
That's crazy.
For a Gen X guy like me, growing up and being in awe of Dr. J, and then at his golf charity event, and I get, it was surreal, man. And, Doc is still all of 6'7", hands bigger than a bear. I get to shake his hand. I'm nervous what to ask him and everything, but it worked out great. So, that's just part of my journey. And, I've been pretty lucky just being a late bloomer. And I just always tell people, if I can do it, if I can navigate through these spaces, so can anybody else. And, and I'm just a older Black man just trying to add balance and just trying to add, more objectivity to a industry where most of the athletes are Black, but the people that cover them don't necessarily represent the base.
For sure.
Right.
Tell me about the most challenging thing in journalism for you.
Most challenging thing in journalism, I believe, is not only being objective, but just trying to ask the right questions at the right time, being tough when you have to be. And I would say, for the most part, to just kind of summarize that, not being caught up.
Not being caught up. Oh, okay.
It's so easy.
Right.
When you interview a Dr. J, when you interview a Malcolm Jenkins,
right.
If you're younger and you can relate more to a Jalen Hurts, you're around his age and you get to interview him, not getting caught up, because, you have to do your job.
Right.
And people can see through that. Not only the people that you work for, people that you work with, your colleagues, and also the teams that you cover also. I mean, of course, when you cover a team, they always want you to keep them in a good light or in a positive light, but you also have to understand that's not always necessary. If Jalen Hurts throws an interception, you have to talk about it.
Right.
If James Harden has 10 turnovers in a playoff game, you got to talk about it. Yeah. So no matter how much you may like or admire them, as a player, and also from the human aspect as well. Even though I try to keep the humanity in mind as far as athletes are concerned, because I think a lot of my peers don't tend to lose that. Fans too. But I just try to bring the humanity aspect to it also. There's another side to that too. There's a positive side to humanity, and there's a negative side to humanity, because you never really know who athletes are. You never really know who celebrities are behind closed doors. So I'm at the point where I have enough experience to where if we hear something in the news that's negative, how am I giving an example? So like your Aaron Hernandez's of the world and everything, when something like that comes up, you can't be that surprised, even though it's shocking or maybe gruesome or maybe disgusting. You can't have that so far-fetched from your mind, because at the end of the day, they're human just like we are, and they're prone to mistakes, and I won't say they're prone to get in trouble, but they're human just like we are. And you try to look at it evenly from a positive side and a negative side, and you just try to balance that in between, and that helps you become a better journalist.
So kind of like, you can't say, oh shit, that nigga was tripping. You got to be objective and try to, okay.
Well, you can say that too. That's part of it too.
Okay.
Because we're on this platform, whether it's you guys, whether it's brother from a mother or whoever, be yourself. Don't lose your sense of who you are and everything. Yeah, dude was tripping. Like, what the hell? What's going on?
Yeah.
But
so
from
do you
a journalistic standpoint, sticking to the facts and everything, and it is what it is.
So are you one of those guys who has like a Are you pro the story or pro the player? Meaning, what's your loyalty to? Are you more loyal to not shitting on the player too crazy, or if he do something crazy, you gonna take the story and take the story?
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm kind of, I won't say loyal to I'm loyal to the story first, because you have to do the story.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to be fair to the player within the story.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
As a journalist, it's not as traditional as it used to be, because so many people break the rules. Even your most seasoned journalists will break the rules and all. And I'm not even sure what the rules are now.
Right.
But I can only go by who I was trained by. And, when I went to broadcast school, all of my instructors had, 25, 30 years in the business, and I was brought up the old way. Right, and, you still have to rely on your sources. You have to pursue the facts, go with the facts, and incorporate that with the story. And, from what I've been taught, journalism is truth to power. You got to find the truth. You can have fun with it as well, because nobody wants to hate their job, and it can be a fun job, but you just have to stick with the truth as much as possible, and it's necessary, because if you don't, over time, your credibility will be shot. Your credibility will be compromised, not only with who you're working for, even if you're an independent journalist. There's a trust factor. There's a trust from the people who read your work, who watch your work, if you're doing more of video journalism, and also you have to have trust with the teams and trust with the players. If you want a player to be honest with you, you have to build that trust. You have to build that respect, and you have to be honest with the player and just say, hey, if you suck, I got to write about it. But that doesn't mean I'm going to disrespect you. That doesn't mean that I'm thinking of you less of a man or a woman. But you just got to be fair. But you can have fun with it as well. So.
Yeah. So and there seems to be like a TMZ element to journalism these days, which is cool. I don't have an issue with it. It's just that I think you just got to be more responsible when you're, adding that element of your sports writing into it.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the responsibility is a great word, what you said. So that's what I try to do because, you know, so many things are thrown out every single day. We see that on Twitter, you know, with you guys and
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I see something that's irresponsible, I don't care who it is, black, white, whoever, I'm going to call it out as irresponsible.
Right.
So, and, you know, even here, I'll give you an example. You know, being here in Philadelphia, which is still the fourth largest media market in America. And, you know, I could pretty much write a whole book of how Jalen Hurts is covered here in the city.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to, you know, throw him out of town
Yep.
last year because he went 9-8 his first year as a starter and looked bad in his first ever playoff game. Which, if you look at the statistics, first year starters, quarterbacks at his age, you look at the statistics and you look at the historical references of how many quarterbacks of his ilk have won their first playoff game. It's not many.
Yeah.
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 And people just wanted to, you know, throw him out. I mean, it was nasty work, as the kids say.
Yeah.
And, you know, nobody thought that he would, you know, improve. Now, did he improve higher to most people's expectations? Yes, I would admit.
Absolutely.
But, you know, just the way he was covered through print media, mostly sports talk shows here. You know, it was crazy, and I called a lot of it out as irresponsible because if he was another quarterback, particularly a white quarterback, he would have been covered differently. There's no question about that in my mind.
Oh yeah,
right. And I know that's not.
That.
Yeah, and I know that's not in a bubble with Philadelphia, and I know that's across America how quarterbacks are covered. Trust me, if he wins this championship game, which I know we'll talk about. If he wins this NFC Championship game, he goes against, let's say, Joe Burrow and everything. You're going to see the contrast for the entire 2 weeks of how Jalen Hurts is covered and how Joe Burrow is covered. And that's not to say that Joe Burrow is not a great young quarterback. He is, but you're going to see that contrast. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Now, I got news earlier today that Sheryl Lee Ralph, the great Sheryl Lee Ralph, is performing "Lift Every Voice and Sing" at the Super Bowl. You had a chance to interview Sheryl Lee Ralph. What was that experience like? Because she's a legend in the acting game.
Yes, Trey. So that's another surreal moment for me. And, you know, I just want to say the majority of articles that I do, they're not as, I don't want to say not as rewarding, but they're not as flashy.
Right.
So, you know, in addition to sports writing, I do, you know, a lot of culture writing as well. So, or things that may, you know, happen here and around the city. But, you know, it was a spirit of the moment thing. My editor called me. She was having a big celebration here in Philadelphia. For those who don't know, her husband is a Pennsylvania state senator, Vincent Hughes. So, of course, Philadelphia is basically her second home. So of course she spends a lot of time here because, you know, her husband is from here. So Philadelphia, she's an adopted daughter of the city. So you've heard Philadelphia become, our slogan is a city of brotherly love, but it's also deemed the city of sisterly affection as well. So she's an adopted sister, adopted daughter of Philadelphia. So they decided to give her a big celebration here. My editor called me to cover it, and, you know, I didn't even know that I was going to get a exclusive or a one-on-one with her. But her people were great and everything, and she was just so gracious. And for those who watch her current show, Abbott Elementary, she exudes she exudes the character of Mrs. Howard on the show.
Based out of Philly, by the way.
Right. So she's very stern, and shout out to Quinta Brunson too, who's from West Philly like I am. So,
she is. She is from Philly. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. She went to school with my niece. So went to elementary school with my niece. So so that's another aspect. So small world. But anyway, so Sheryl Lee Ralph had a big celebration here, and I got a one-on-one with her and got to interview her. And, she was very gracious, another surreal moment. And again, she's one of the nicest people I've ever met. And it was just a joy to interview her and for the people to see the story. And, I've since posted some audio up from that interview and everything. So it's for the people, man. It's for when I'm in the entertainment aspect or even with sports, it's for the culture. I do it for the culture, man, because I'm part of that. And, it's a joy, it's a blessing for me to cover the culture just as much as sports, which, I'm covering mostly Black players. So that's part of the culture too. So it's always a running joke where I have a job. I have an unofficial job on Twitter to find out Jalen Hurts' whereabouts. Like when he's coming to the game, what does he have on and everything? Because listen, the ladies love Jalen Hurts. So I'm on Hurts duty.
that seems very evident that they loving Jalen Hurts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, let's recap the game over the weekend.
Is it really a recap?
I mean, sure, man. Look, man. It's kind of his job the what I'm saying. Turn the lemons into lemonade, or make the when back in the days when slaves they gave us the scraps. You got to make a good meal. It's some scraps in this game that we can kind of. I want to see if my man can make a nice home cooked meal out of the scraps of what we saw over the weekend.
Trying to make lemonade without lemons, or chicken, from chicken, whatever. So, but it wasn't much of a game. I mean, you could tell basically by the first drive that Giants had no chance to win that game.
Yeah.
When it was 7-0, 14-0, I said, this game is over, man. And Giants have nothing. And it just comes down to the Eagles just being a much better team, more talented team than the New York Giants. And that doesn't take away from the good year that the Giants had. If you look at from where they came from, they finally have a coach now to compete, at least in the division. I don't know if he's going to burn himself out much as he hollers and turns red on the sideline. But, they finally have a good coach in Brian Dable. But when you go pound for pound, player for player, you might not even find 2 or 3 Giants that could really start on the Eagles roster.
Right.
Yeah, the discrepancy is night and day. It's night and day.
Yeah, and that's basically what it came down to. The Eagles just imposed their will on the Giants and like, okay, we're done with you. Next, we're on a mission. You guys are just in the way. We're just going to shrug aside.
They looked about as great as they did earlier in the regular season. Like maybe from like week 13, or I guess whenever they played the Colts, they had those couple of weeks where they was looking a little shaky. They had lost to the Commanders at home Monday night, and then they played the Colts a little bit shaky, even though they won that game. And we were kind of waiting for that particular Eagles team from earlier in the year to show up. That team showed up Saturday night.
Yeah, they certainly did, and I believe the first round bye helped because that's really what they needed, and that's why you saw Jalen Hurts in Week 18 come off his injury. It's still a mystery of how injured he really is. I'm not sure, but and nobody's 100%. During this time, but they finally got the machine rolling, and I pretty much knew that was going to happen because you look at the outliers, losing that tough game in Dallas with Gardner Minshew, and then next week in New Orleans. The Dallas game was one thing, but when you saw that Gardner Minshew wasn't the answer with New Orleans, and I said, listen, they got to bring Hurts back for the Week 18 game against the Giants because they can't. They can't F around and find out. By not getting the 1 seed. Because you see how valuable it is now. And, we'll probably see this weekend how valuable it will be when the 49ers come into town. And, I would just say, for instance, if the Eagles had to go to San Francisco will probably be favored. Whatever the spread is right now and everything, it probably would have gone the other way if they had to go out to the Bay Area and play that game. So, as for Eagles fans and all, you got to be happy that they came out and just imposed their will against the Giants.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So, this team is pretty much going to the Super Bowl to your guesstimation. That's kind of where I'm at this stage of the game, right?
Well, I'm leaning towards that way, but I am a little concerned about San Francisco because just basically breaking down the game, I was actually watching the 49ers coverage out there in the Bay Area, and I believe Dante Whitner, who was a former linebacker for them, I believe.
Yeah.
He summed
safety.
it up this safety, right? He pretty much summed it up this way. He said that the Eagles will be the best team the 49ers face this year, and vice versa.
Right.
The 49ers will be, the best team the Eagles will face. And, it was almost a heavyweight fight that you saw last week against the Niners in Dallas, and that was indicative with the score, right? So I don't know if it'll be a similar type score, but you definitely have the two best teams in the NFC, I believe. And you look up and down, tail to tape, you look at all the statistics, offensively, defensively, points per game, yards per game. I mean, it's basically neck and neck. And the only difference where I believe the Eagles will get over the hump is quarterback. Even though Brock Purdy is, I believe, 5-0 now, I have to believe that the talent and the leadership of Jalen Hurts will get them over the hump. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think the Eagles pull it out in the end.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm actually upset because I was expecting Dak versus Jalen Hurts.
I was too.
I was upset.
That, yes.
I pulled for Dallas last week. I thought Dallas would pull the upset off. That, like you said earlier, there was two tough teams. Both defenses arguably could be number one, number two in the league. And, me and Maestro was just talking earlier before you came on. The difference is Dak Prescott couldn't make those throws when he needed to make the throws in those kind of critical moments.
Clutch.
Right, he wasn't clutch. But I'm disappointed because the first matchup against Dallas and y'all, Dak wasn't there. The second matchup, Dak was there, but Jalen wasn't there. So I was just hoping that part 3 would happen where both quarterbacks are there and whoever can prove who the better NFC East team is, let it be. But as far as this matchup is concerned, I'm with you. I got the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And I think Brock Purdy, and I don't want to say he was exposed last week, but you can tell that Dallas defense did some things to where some of his throws were off. He wasn't completing third downs. It was a 9-9 ball game through 3 quarters, I think.
Yeah, you're right about. No, go ahead, Maestro.
Yeah, quite frankly, Brock Purdy is a rookie quarterback who was put into a great system, and he is a product of being put in a great system. He sits there and he does what he's told, and because he's capable of doing what he's told, even in pressure situations. He gets rid of the ball when he needs to get rid of the ball. He makes the throw when he needs to make the throw. He's not being asked to do anything. He's not being asked to be a hero, whereas Dak is emphatically being asked to be the hero all the time.
He's better than Brock Purdy. He's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy.
Yeah, which means he would have more responsibility than Brock Purdy. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's in that respect. It's not fair to Dak Prescott, but in the same token, and I was telling Trey earlier, OJ, Dak got to step up, man. It's just that simple. Dak got to step up. As to Brock Purdy and 49ers going against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, look, man, AJ Brown should if Jalen Hurts can get it in the air, AJ Brown should come down with it a high percentage of the time, and I think that's going to be the determining factor in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And who is the Eagles have to look for this matchup? And I believe it's Jimmy Ward cornerback who,
Yeah.
he can get exposed a little bit. So
Yeah.
Yep.
whether he's on the side with Devontae Smith or AJ Brown, the Eagles have to try to exploit that matchup because I think either of those receivers will be able to get a lot of catches or have some favorable matchups against him. So that's one factor. And I think it's going to go down to the trenches. You've seen the Eagles' offensive line all year, 3 Pro Bowlers, Kelsey, Dickerson, and Johnson. Johnson's playing hurt, but he's gonna play again this week. And then you have the Eagles' defensive line where you count last week, they have 75 sacks now.
Man, I miss Javon Hargrave in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Yeah, four guys, 10 sacks and over.
He's been a solid pro for, I think it's going on his third year here in Philadelphia. So he's been a solid pro, a solid veteran in that locker room, another leader on the team. Hassan Reddick, who's a local guy here, went to Temple University. He makes that defense run. You can't block him with one guy. So you hope, from an Eagle standpoint, you hope that the defensive line will dominate. It's a good 49ers line, but Eagles that they have, and we're not even talking about Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph, who they rotate in the middle, along with Fletcher Cox.
Right.
And you have a young Jordan Davis in there as well, who hasn't been getting a whole lot of time, but he's probably their best run stopper. So it's a lot of moving parts, and one thing the Eagles have to be worried about as well is, of course, 49ers front seven, which is probably the best in the league overall, pound for pound. And from a defensive standpoint, Eagles have to keep Christian McCaffrey in check. If they keep that running game in check and they force Brock Purdy to throw, I think that's going to be a favorable advantage, as you saw with Dallas. And I'm sure they're looking deep into that divisional playoff tape with what Dallas tried to do, even though the Eagles don't blitz nearly as much as Dallas does. And if they can just keep, Deebo Samuel out of the screen game and the reverse game and everything, the Eagles have a good chance. But I think this is probably going to be a touchdown game, if that. I'll put it this way. I think it'll be just neck and neck for probably 3 quarters, and probably Eagles pull away in the 4th. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't pretend to watch every Eagles game this season, but I don't recall them being the Eagles defense. I don't recall them ever getting killed by the screen pass this year. Have you seen anything of that sort?
Not really, Trey, but they haven't gone against many teams who can execute the screen pass, and they don't have that personnel like a Deebo Samuel, like a Ayuk.
Yeah,
right.
They can struggle a little bit with a tight end. With George Kittle, they do tend to leave the middle open.
I was just about to say that
a little bit. They're more of a bend, don't break defense, but they rely heavily on their front 4.
Yeah.
And then of course you have Reddick coming from the edge. They rely on their defensive line getting home. And that allows their Pro Bowler Darius Slay, their All Pro James Bradbury to do their work and all. So Eagles don't really have a weakness. I might say it might be their linebackers, but TJ Edwards leads the league in tackles. Kazir White is a solid linebacker as well. So, again, going back to my original point, these are 2 best teams clearly in the NFC.
Yeah,
you see how they work.
Yeah,
you see how they wear the other team down. And they just are able to force Brock Purdy to throw. I think the Eagles can certainly win. I think the Eagles are going to score, but I'm a little concerned about McCaffrey out of the backfield, Kittle and those guys
in the middle.
Yeah. It's a tough. Right. It's a tough offense when you add McCaffrey to that, and now it's McCaffrey, Deebo, Kittle over the middle, and even Ayuk can get some yards too if you fall asleep on
exactly the way Shanahan likes to run those those bubble screens, those reverses and everything. They got that speed, but and again on the other side, with the Eagles they have AJ Brown. They have Devontae Smith. They also have a deep threat in Quez Watkins, Dallas Goedert, who basically is right up there behind Kittle, Kelsey, however you want
on that second tier of tight ends. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's basically the top of that second tier. And again, you got Miles Sanders, who's had a career year out of the backfield with that RPO and all. It's going to be tough for all the experts that I've heard. It's been consistent with the Eagles offense is the toughest team in the league to defend against because you never know how they're coming. You don't know if Hurts is going to keep it. You don't know if he's going to give it to Miles, or you don't know if he's going to just drop back and throw it deep to AJ or Devontae. So I think we got a great game coming up.
So quickly before we get to the Sixers, quick question. Who do you think the Eagles are going to play in the Super Bowl?
I like Cincinnati. I'm kind of sick of the Chiefs.
Wow.
I know, Trey,
really? Wow. Really?
I'm kind of sick of Kansas City. Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe I still have my Andy Reid fatigue from Philadelphia, but that's not to take anything from Mahomes. Mahomes is the best. So it's probably going to be the best for years, but you don't know how he's going to come with this high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He played through it on Sunday. You don't know how this treatment is going to be. You don't know how much the swelling has been. You don't know how much the treatment is going to be this week. I assume he's going to play. Cincinnati should prepare as if he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think Cincinnati has their number until Kansas City can prove that they don't.
Yeah.
Burrow has been able to figure it out. And Cincinnati is not the most talented team. They probably had the most talented offense. Their offensive line is still a little shaky, but they've overcome that, even though they've made adjustments. They have a couple injuries on there. I actually think their defense is a little better, even though you can run on them. I think their pass defense is really good. They have a good defensive line. They have a pretty decent secondary, short of maybe your Eli Apples of the world, who likes to toss trash more than play the game.
Yeah.
I think I got to take Cincinnati, man, because they've shown me, and I didn't even think beginning of the season they were going to make the playoffs because they got off to such a slow start.
I didn't either.
But the way they just beat up on Buffalo, they beat those guys up, man.
Yeah.
They beat them up physically. They took their heart in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So that was impressive. That their run this year might even be more impressive than last year when they made the Super Bowl.
Right.
So, and they're the one team that's not scared of Kansas City. Also, they're not scared of those guys. They can score with them. And the weakness that you have with KC, of course, you have to try to outscore Patrick Mahomes because if you give him the ball one too many times, he's going to beat you every time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you can score on that Kansas City defense. Nobody should be scared of that Kansas City defense. As long as you're not afraid to lose the game or you're not a conservative offensive head coach or a coordinator, you can score against Kansas City. And Cincinnati, they have the firepower. With Burrow, with Mixon, they have
Jamar Chase.
Yep, they have two. They have one great receiver and one very good one. Mm-hmm. And their tight ends are no slouches either. So
and Tyler Boyd in the slot is no slouch.
There you go.
And Hayden Hurst is coming along too on the tight end position.
Exactly. So they probably have, I'll say pound for pound, they probably have the second best group of receivers. Probably put them against the Eagles, maybe even with the 49ers and everything. They're not scared of KC. So that's why I like them this week, because I know they can go toe to toe with them, and they've proven it.
OJ, you're right. You're right in everything you say about the Cincinnati Bengals, but this the team I root for, and you can't tell, but my homeboy over there, he's a Pittsburgh fan.
I know.
Yeah. I'm picking the Chiefs to win, and even on a bum ankle with Mahomes, I'm picking with my heart. I'm picking the Chiefs. I want the Kelsey brothers storyline. I want the Reed going up against his former team.
I don't want any of those storylines. I don't want any.
I want the black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl.
Well, that's the one driving force. But like I said, I got KC fatigue, man. I know Cincinnati is both of you guys' enemies, and if I wasn't an Eagles fan, I'd probably be a Baltimore Ravens fan because I just love the city of Baltimore because it reminds me so much of Philly, and even with Pittsburgh and everything. I grew up watching the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm old enough to remember Joe Green, Mel Blount, Franco Hat. I'm old enough to remember those guys because they were always on television. They were always good. A lot of older cats that I know who live in Philadelphia, they were Steelers fans because they were basically one of the first diverse football teams in the NFL.
Shout out Joe Gilliam.
Yeah, there you go. Jefferson Joe Gilliam, who my dad told me about and everything. So, I know all about the Steel Curtain, the Steelers legacy. I love my boy Tomlin, a.k.a. Omar Epps.
Yeah.
But again, I have a love for Baltimore just as far as the city itself and everything.
Baltimore does look a lot like Philly now. I never... It does look...
Oh, yeah.
It's very... Even down to the row homes. It's like... sometimes my fiance and I will go to Baltimore and everything, spend some time and eat and stuff like that. And, we're driving around, look at some of the row houses like, yo, this Philly.
Oh, yeah. I've heard, I know some people live in the city. They'd be like, man, we got cousins in Philly. Like, it's like Baltimore and Philly are like cousins. Baltimore, because
as a city, you are our cousins. So so that's so true. So, and everybody I know who is from Baltimore, who's from that area, even if you go further down, the DMV and everything, and I know the distinction. So I try to get in trouble, but they've all been cool, friendly with me. My niece went to Howard. I have a cousin went to Morgan State. So listen, if I didn't live in Philly, I probably live somewhere in Maryland. So.
Okay,
no doubt. Why do y'all hate Andy Reid so much? Like I hear this a lot on Philly radio. Like
1-4 NFC Championship games.
Okay.
I mean that's
1-4.
Okay.
1-4 NFC Championship games. Also, you go back to the McNabb era, and how long did it take him to get a wide receiver in T.O.?
Yeah. That right there is the argument. That right there is the argument. You're not gonna tell me about no Freddie Mitchell and that's the argument, right?
James Thrash, who now works for the NFL, ironically, gives out the fines and everything. Helps give out the fines. You look at that. He was never forthcoming with the fans or the media, all those things. He probably stayed here in Philadelphia. He'd probably be more appreciated as the years go on, but he probably stayed maybe 2-3 years too long. The last year he was here was a disaster. So that's basically how Eagles got Lane Johnson. They were so bad that year before.
Right.
You just look back at it and everything. And the one NFC Championship that they should have had, and I know you guys have seen this, was the one against Tampa Bay, where you saw Rondé Barber just take the game away. That was the signature of that game, but they lost the way before it, and all the stars were aligned. Tampa Bay never won at the old vet and everything. How does somebody come in the vet and beat you, right?
So that was the Super Bowl Bucks team, right? The 2002 team.
Exactly. So that's the one that sticks in my mind. But when they won in 2017, all was forgiven. I forgot about that. I ain't forget about Andy Reid, but all the way till next year, and the only NFC East team without a Super Bowl trophy. All that went away. We can now sit at the adults table. It's always the kids' table come Super Bowl week.
But you know what? You make a great point, because I'm sitting here trying to think about long tenured coaches that stayed with the team. And Reid was there, 14, 15 years? something
about
like that.
14 seasons.
Yeah, to have a job, head coaching job for 14, 15 years and not win a title. I'm trying to think about at least anybody in sports that has, coached the same team for so long and hadn't won anything with that team. And the one person that comes to mind is Jerry Sloan with the Utah Jazz.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Trey.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one person that comes to mind, but with Salt Lake City, nobody's gonna,
He's a great coach, but
right.
I give the late Jerry Sloan a mulligan because he had to go against Jordan twice.
Yeah, facts.
Listen, Jordan did that to 4 other teams.
Yeah.
So
Facts.
No,
what you gonna do?
Yeah, speaking of the NBA, let's talk Sixers for a minute here.
Sure.
Number 2 team in the East, 5-game win streak, I believe. I think this has got to be their year, and I'm not necessarily saying that they got to win the finals, but they got to get to the conference finals because ever since they drafted Embiid and Simmons, and now we know Simmons is gone. But this team is gone almost 6-7 years, and it seems like their ceiling is only the second round of the playoffs. This has got to be the year now. I mean, James Harden, not that he's the Houston Rockets James Harden of the past, but he looks better than he did when he got traded to the team last year.
There's so many layers with the Sixers and what they did on this West Coast trip, going 5-0. And with the last game in Sacramento, not even having Embiid or Harden, and he still won out in Sacramento, who I think is one of the top seeds. Yeah, one of the top seeds in the West right now. They're playing great ball, right? So that was impressive. And I think they've won 20 of their last 22. They're now the second seed in the East. They're playing their best basketball right now. But the outlier, the elephant in the room, Trey and Maestro, is that second round curse. Whether it was with Ben Simmons, whether it was Harden last year, even though Harden played only 20 so games, just coming in
he was
towards
fat.
at the trade deadline. So he's much more in shape this year. So there's 2 things. They have a bench right now, which they haven't had in years, because one, I think DeAnthony Melton, that was probably one of the best acquisitions the Sixers have made in several years.
Wow.
He's been very essential to that bench, not only giving them defense. He's a second point guard. He can score. That's one thing. He's taking a lot of pressure off those other guys on the bench. Also, too, Montrezl Harrell, he's giving them some tough minutes in the front court as a backup.
Man, I like him.
Yeah, so he's that tough guy that they've been missing to do a lot of the dirty work.
Right.
He's actually what PJ Tucker should be doing. But he's almost given the Sixers nothing offensively. I would say that. And I think you go on Twitter and you look up Sixers fans. It's always been fire Doc Rivers, right? But I think Doc Rivers is doing a phenomenal job this year, and I'm almost afraid to say it because Sixers fans will come at me and say, "Oh yeah, no, fire Doc. He's gonna screw it up. He's gonna F it up. Everything." As much as I talked about Andy Reid fatigue. It's only been 3 seasons, and Sixers fans have Doc Rivers fatigue. But it is on him to make this work. But I thought early in the season too, fans and media must start looking at Daryl Morey too, because we look at his whole record. He hasn't won anything. People are enamored with him for some type of reason because he's a wheeler and dealer. He's out in the forefront. He's a funny guy. He's not afraid to, make a trade here and there. And, there's been some criticism that they become Houston North because you have a lot of former Houston Rocket guys over here. So, but they're playing great basketball right now. And I think the number one thing is that they're healthy for the most part. Even though you saw Embiid and Harden miss, the Sacramento game over the weekend, they haven't missed. Embiid was injured a little bit early in the season, but he's come back. But I think Embiid is in the best shape of his career. Harden is in much better shape, and they have Tyrese Maxey back, and he's still trying to find his way. This last week last week or so since he's been back. So I think they're on the verge of making a great run. But going back to you guys' original point, they got to get past the second round.
Right.
This is fun to watch right now. I'm enjoying it, especially Harden's game, because he's become the true point guard, and it appears that he has changed his game, which I didn't think he was capable of doing. We'll see how long that holds up, because Harden can flip that switch and change, and become Houston Harden. So, which is great for a while, but that end is a bit ugly, right?
Right.
But they have to get past the second round. They have to get to it at least, the very least, the bare minimum, get to the conference finals. And the way the East is shaping up, we still got to see how things are. As we approach the All-Star break in a couple of weeks. I think things are shaping well for the Sixers because it looks a little more wide open. Milwaukee doesn't look as good as they were last year.
Yeah.
I know Boston looks good. You have some of the young guns like the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
And all. They're playing good ball. But Sixers seem to be playing the most consistent ball out of everybody in the East. And, you're not sure what Miami's going to do either. It's just going to be a wait and see. And, from a Philly standpoint, fans, media, and everything, they have to get past the second round, as you said, or it's going to be a complete failure. And one last thing about it, you talk about Embiid. Not only is he is the process, he is the last of the process. They have to get something out of his peak years. And I actually think he's having the best year of his career. You're looking at his scoring, you're looking at his field goal percentage, his overall stats. I hope he wins the scoring title personally this year. He's going to have to be Luka out for it. But if he does, he'll be the first true center to win back-to-back scoring titles since Kareem, which would be phenomenal. And that's going back MVP. 50 years.
Give him the MVP.
I don't think it's going to happen with today's game because these writers, they're so partial to the Euro game, which I hate. I hate the term Euro step, by the way.
Yeah.
It's really the Elgin Baylor step. So he invented
Shout out Elgin Baylor. Shout out Spingarn High School in Washington, D.C.
DC, yes, exactly. So who's probably the most forgotten basketball player of all time.
For real.
Because he was hang time before everybody else. And still third all time in scoring average, by the way. But these writers are so enamored with the Euro game, and when they see, I'm gonna say it, when they see a great white basketball player like Luka Doncic, like
the Joker,
Nikola Jokic, the Joker, they gonna ride with them, man. They gonna ride with them.
That's not a false statement, and
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's just facts. That's just facts. Projections for the Sixers, man. Obviously the goal is to get out of the second round.
Absolutely.
Do you think they do it?
I was skeptical at the beginning of the year because I didn't believe that they did enough for their bench. They did enough to enhance the starting lineup. Even though I like PJ Tucker in Miami, I thought, giving him that long-term deal was disastrous. It still might be disastrous, but it hasn't hurt them. But I finally believe that they're going to get past the second round. If they keep up this pace, and I'm not saying that they won't keep this up the entire year, but if they stay consistent like they have been, I think they can get past the third round because not so much of how they're playing, but what I said earlier, I think the East is a little more wide open than it has been the last couple of years. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite as we've seen in the last couple of seasons. I don't think it's necessary.
In the Embiid era, we've seen them we've seen them play the Miami Heat, we've seen them against the Nets, we've seen them against Boston, but the one team that I was always intrigued to see them go up against is Milwaukee. with Giannis and Embiid, and we haven't seen that yet in a best of 7 series. Let's say that happens this maybe the second round. Let's say it happens the second round. Middleton's not what he used to be when they won a chip. How would you see a series like that play out?
Yeah, well, and I forgot to mention Brooklyn, by the way. So my apologies. But then again, you don't know which Brooklyn team you really going to get.
Durant is out for a few
better.
weeks, so
yeah,
it's Kyrie running the show right now.
Yeah. So there you go. So I think we'll probably see that this year. I want to see it just as much as you do. You want to see that matchup, and I just hope the Bucks are healthy because I want to see that toe to toe. I want to see Giannis. I want to see Middleton. I want to see Drew Holiday go against Harden, go against Tyrese Maxey. Those matchups. I want to see how well the Sixers guard against the three, which has been their Achilles heel over these past 2 years. That's kind of how they've been getting knocked out. I want to see that matchup, and hopefully we will. I believe we will. To the way that the seeding has gone so far, and that could be a 7-game series. But that's actually one thing I would worry about with the Sixers as far as going 7 games, because the more for Embiid's health and the way he plays the game and the way his body type and all. When they get to the first round, second round, they have to take care of business. Try to take care of business in, let's say, 5 games, 6 games at the most, because if they go back-to-back 7 games and everything, that's probably going to be pretty bad for both Embiid and Harden because of Harden's age and, Embiid getting some miles in the tire. But again, these guys look healthy for the most part, so we'll see. You
think they trade for a shooter by the deadline?
That's a great question. I've been thinking about that over the past few days, how well they've been playing. But you kind of got to ask, who are they going to give up? Listen, I would love for them to move Tucker, move that contract. I don't think they can. They try to get a shooter or something like that.
Nah, you need a bully. You can't get rid of the goon, man. You need PJ Tucker.
I mean, but Montrezl.
That's what Harold's there. Yeah,
Harold has really become. He's really taken on that bully role.
That's true. Yeah.
So where Tucker can be expendable, but I don't know who's going to take that contract, and I don't know who else you're going to move. They can't move a Melton. Maybe they try to move Tyrese. Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't gotten as many minutes this year as usual because he's pretty much a liability offensively.
On offense. Yeah.
He would be a great one-on-one defender for another team or another contender. Hopefully they send him out west if they do trade him, because we want to see him in the East because he can D up people for the most part. But we'll see. I don't know if they necessarily need a quote-unquote shooter right now because they do get enough shooting from George Niang off the bench. They get enough scoring from Melton. Tyrese can shoot a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see. I don't think they will, but it wouldn't be a shock if they did.
Go ahead, Maestro.
Oh no, I was really just agreeing. I was agreeing with the point that you know me, I fully believe that they are missing a shooter. That's what I feel the Sixers are missing. They need somebody that's just going to sit there and do nothing but shoot. Just sit and wait in the corner, pop and make a dribble to the left or right and pop it. And catch a shooter type guy is who I think they need a piece like that on their team to kind of take the next step. Honestly, I agree with that, and it's been their problem for a few years now. To be honest,
right?
Yeah, so I agree with your assessment.
Yeah, Maestro. It's an interesting question. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but the way they've been playing, it's hard to justify. But again, I'm just trying to think, who are they going to move in order to get that shooter? Because I know teams just aren't going to just give away a shooter, especially if they're, especially if they think they're still in contention. So
yeah, right.
if you can, I'm trying to even think who would be
who is out. Yeah, who would be right?
Who would be on the market that somebody would want to unload. That's not really a contending team. But you know, Doc also likes versatile players. And you know, I don't want to say he was a consistent shooter. They still have Cork Miles on the roster. You know, he was their shooter, but he's not a consistent shooter. He was just so streaky, and he really doesn't get any time anymore because of guys like Anthony Milton. So
y'all need like a Kevin Huerter. That's what y'all need.
But Kevin Huerter, you ain't gonna find no Kevin Huerters nowhere out there. His stock is way up.
And the Kings are number 3, so they not selling him. They're not selling him. Right. But I just got one more Sixers point, and I remember back over the summer you conducted a Twitter space in regards to a rendering of the new Sixers arena that's supposed to be downtown Philly, and I had a chance to listen to that space for a few minutes, and it's kind of amazing because us here in the DMV, we're kind of dealing with the same thing with the Washington football team, you know, getting the stadium. So people in DC don't want the stadium 30 miles in Virginia. Meanwhile, you guys in Philly don't want the Sixers to play downtown Philly. I want them to be, you know, kind of where they're at. I kind of thought about it too, because they played in South Philly for a long time, kind of going back to, what was it, the Spectrum? Was that the old arena?
The Spectrum,
Yeah, so, you know, I guess different generations of fans get used to a certain area and how to get to the game, because as a guy from New York myself, and a guy that's been to a lot of Knicks games as a kid, going to the Garden, we took the train a lot. And so in regard to the Sixers arena, I hear some good points, but in your opinion, is this thing like an official go, or is there still some like blowback with the city?
There's still a lot of blowback, not so much with the city itself. The city leaders, well, we have an outgoing mayor, so this is all going to fall on who's going to be the next mayor. We're a very democratic city, so whoever the next mayor is going to be, they're probably going to be the next mayor for 2 terms, which is 8 years.
Right.
So it's a lot of layers with this, right?
Yeah.
So the sports complex, all of our teams, unique to most other cities, they play south of the city. It's still in the city, but it's in South Philly. There's a sports complex where the Eagles play, Phillies play, and Sixers and Flyers. They're all across the street from each other, right?
Yeah.
So our downtown is actually in the center of the city, called Center City, but old guys, cats like me still call it downtown. There's a lot of layers to this. Our city is very provincial. We're a city that doesn't really like to change, keep it the way it is. But from the Sixers ownership, which they also own the New Jersey Devils, by the way.
That's Mike Rubin in those guys, right?
Well, Rubin sold his stock. He's the CEO of Fanatics.
Yep.
He's getting into, he actually getting into online gaming and gambling, actually. So with that, he had to sell his piece of the team.
Gotcha.
Which ironically, he sold the piece to the developer of the new Sixers arena.
Got it.
So you see how that works, right?
Right.
So also with the new arena, the Sixers owners, for one, their tenants, where they play at Wells Fargo Center, the Flyers own the Wells Fargo Center. So they're tenants there. So therefore, it's a money thing. They don't get the revenue, they don't get the parking, et cetera, et cetera. So they want their own building. They've been wanting their own building. Josh Harris, who's the principal owner, they've been wanting their own arena basically since they bought the team. And they want it downtown, Center City, because that's goes in unison with most other NBA teams who have their arena downtown.
Yep.
So that's basically what they want to do. They just want to fall in line, get their own place, make their own money, because that's what they're all into, making money, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's basically what they want to do. But similar to Washington, D.C., where was that Capital One Arena is.
Yep.
It was built like in or by their Chinatown.
Yep.
So the new proposed Sixers Arena is basically one block from Philadelphia's Chinatown.
Wow.
And of course, the Chinese residents are completely against it. They tried to build the Phillies ballpark. They wanted to build the Phillies ballpark in Chinatown 20 years ago, and that just basically fell through. But with this, I do believe it has its pros and cons. I know a concern, but just from my knowledge for what I've been reading, how this has been put together, and they were smart too because they also have a Black construction firm that is signed on to it. So right,
yeah,
Black woman, by the way. But
nice.
Which I like in that aspect. But I do think it's going to happen with all the pros and cons because of what I just said. They want to be in unison with the NBA. I know the city itself does not want to lose the Sixers as a franchise. They don't want them going across the river to New Jersey. They don't want them going to Delaware, where the Sixers minor league team is. They don't want them going out of state anywhere. So I believe it's going to happen in some capacity, maybe with some compromises and all. But you know, they want to compete. You know, these owners are powerful. They know how to take the city and state hostage. And they say, build us a stadium, build us an arena, who will move. We've seen that happen.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen in Cleveland. We've seen it happen in St. Louis, Los Angeles, back to Los Angeles. You know, all those things. Oakland. You know, I feel so bad for the Oakland fans. I mean, they may not have any team within the next 5 years.
Within the next 5 years,
yeah.
Which is that's unfathomable to me. You know, Oakland is like, you know, Philly, Baltimore West, right?
Right.
So from all what I've heard, right? So that's really a shame. So, you know, there are a lot of casualties when teams
money's
want their own building. Money's in play, and they want to build the arena. And these are civic entities. And, you know, you can fight for it. You can fight against it as fans, as citizens. But you also have fans who want basketball. They want football. They want, you know, a 3-4 city team.
Yeah.
You know, it's a balance. I don't necessarily agree how they're going about it. And one thing that's in their favor also, that part of Center City, Philadelphia, is basically a wasteland. That land, what's on the land is basically a failed mall that they tried to reconstruct and gentrify, and it's not even doing well. So, you know, you got to do something about that.
Right.
And then you look across the street from where the arena is supposed to be, all the retail stores are closing. So it's going to be something to watch. It's not even supposed to be built until towards the end of this decade, at the earliest. But my gut feeling is it's going to be built in some shape or fashion.
Yeah, and I think what comes along with that is obviously they're going to upgrade transportation, because now, I mean, not just downtown Philly, but downtown in any big city, you can take the train into downtown. So they're going to upgrade. They're going to upgrade that.
Yeah, and the detractors are like, okay, we're think about Philadelphia is we're not New York. We don't want to be New York and everything like that. But Philly fans, we kind of have a complex. We don't want to be looked down upon, but then we don't want to be New York either. You know, so
sound like Baltimore.
It's like, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we're rough around the edge. We're like, and you know, I'll just talk about the Philly fans for 1 second if I may. We're kind of like a dysfunctional family, right? We'll argue, fuss, and fight amongst each other. You may even see that on Twitter during Eagles week or you know, Sixers game or whatever. We'll fight about how the Eagles lost a game. We'll fight about it.
Yeah.
You know, they lost this way or they lost that way.
Yeah.
But we're kind of like this dysfunctional family that, you know, down a block. They always fight amongst each other. But if you try to mess with us, we'll fight you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. You know, we know all the issues. You know, we'll talk about each other. You know, we know this sucks. We know our city has its problems and everything. But we don't need outsiders talking about our problems. we'll handle it.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, man. OJ, first of all, I want to say we appreciate you coming on, man. And we're gonna ask. This is kind of our every guest question when we talk to guests. Your top 5 athletes in Philadelphia. Now, I wanna before you go, disclaimer. So, and Trey, I was going to tell you this story. I forgot about it. I get a phone call on yesterday. Man, who the fuck was that on your show last week? Who didn't put Dale Carter in their top 5 Kansas City Chiefs of all time?
Oh, snap.
Really?
Oh,
Dale,
snap.
he was like, you forgot Dale.
Chiefs players?
He said, you forgot Dale Carter, Neil Smith, and he just started ringing off all the Chiefs. And then y'all only player y'all got the nerve to mention is Christian Okoye. Man, if you don't get the fuck out of here with that, boy, these are the things that happened to me.
Oh my God.
Oh, snap.
From last week. I said, hey bro, what you want me to say? I'm 40, man. I don't remember.
It's her list.
That's what I always have to cop out with. That is my list.
Yeah.
But I do want to say we forgot about Neil Smith big time.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah.
But
top 5 Philly athletes, OJ.
This is tough, and I'm probably gonna catch some hell for this.
Yeah.
But I narrowed it down. So any list with best Philly athlete ever, even though he predates me, but I've done so much research and read and talked to so many people who are still alive who had saw him play. They got to start with Wilt. So we going all time. Best I ever seen is a different list.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
All time, you got to start with Wilt.
Okay.
I mean, he still owns more than 60 records in the NBA. So you start with Wilt, big fella. I would also put Brian Dawkins on that list.
Okay.
Yes. I agree with that.
Safety.
Agree with that. Yeah.
Julius Erving. Gotta
Obvious.
put him on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reggie White. Great Eagles defensive end.
Okay.
Now I cheated a little bit with number 5.
Okay. Now I already know where you're going.
Come on.
All right, so
come on now.
number 5, I have a tie. I had to put Mike Schmidt on there because he's just so integral. He's just the best Phillies player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even close. You'll probably say, make a case for maybe Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard, of this modern time.
Mm-hmm.
But Mike Schmidt has 548 home runs, 12 gold gloves, everything. He's basically Mr. Philly, right?
Right.
But I put Mike Schmidt / Allen Iverson.
Okay.
I'm about to say you better say Allen Iverson in that tie.
so I was torn. I was torn between that, right?
Okay.
But you got to say AI. So if I didn't, I get in trouble.
Yeah.
And not even so much. Iverson never won a title, but he won 3-4 scoring titles, and he's just a coachable phenomenon.
I was just ready to say culturally, you just
on
can't
the
leave
court,
him out.
Off the court. I don't know if y'all saw his the story that in fact buddy of mine here out of Philly, Anthony Gilbert, he did one of the great GQ Sports did a great story on Allen Iverson on style and everything, and my buddy Anthony Gilbert did one of the stories on him. Check that out if y'all can. On Allen Iverson's just total impact culturally on the game. And I think there's some video of that as well on YouTube, him talking about that. AI himself. And if y'all ever lucky enough to talk to AI, get an interview or whatever, just ask him anything, man. He'll have a play. I haven't interviewed him yet. I can't wait. Yeah. But just AI could do no wrong. If we as fans controlled the police here in Philadelphia, he would never get arrested.
Yeah, right.
Never.
Right.
Now, when I always had this slogan, and I should have trademarked this. I always say AI until I die.
Nice.
That's what he means to us. I can imagine what he means in his native Virginia.
Right.
But it's Philadelphia. He can do no wrong. Men, women, children, it doesn't matter. AI is that.
Yeah, them patent leather questions back in the day, man.
Everything, the tattoos, the braids, his swag,
the practice,
telling the media to F off.
Yeah.
It's everything. He's not a Philly guy, but he got it.
But he is a Philly guy.
He is a Philly.
That's not even
guy.
That's not even to say him just throwing himself on the court every night, throwing himself down on the paint every night and getting up every time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Nah, that's a great list though. I was gonna say, and you said his name. You said his name earlier, but and he won a chip with the Phillies in 2008. But Ryan Howard was a masher of the baseball. Even in his prime. That's a guy that, to me, and I hate that his career kind of fell off, kind of the way it did, but he was
the Achilles really shortened his career. He just was never the same towards Achilles. In the playoffs in 2011. But yeah, it was just such a thrill to see him. That 5-year stretch that he had.
Yeah.
He basically had a better 5-year stretch than Mike Schmidt, but overall with his career. And and I say equally, you throw in Jimmy Rollins, and I hope the Phillies, Jimmy Rollins has an outside shot of reaching the Hall of Fame. I hope he does, but I just hope at least the Phillies ownership retires their numbers.
Yeah,
because they're well deserving of that. They used to have a rule where you had to be a Hall of Fame player to get your number retired, but they've since broken that rule. Because if you Google Dick Allen, he was the Phillies' first black superstar, and they finally retired his number. And I hope that Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins has their numbers up at the ballpark too, because it's well deserved. Because they gave the city the best era of Phillies baseball.
And the brothers was black. I just gotta throw that out there. I mean,
you gotta throw that in there.
That had to be.
You may throw that in there, sir.
Inspiration for Philly youth.
Right, and from a historical standpoint, when you look at the Phillies' history, where they had not had a lot of black players, aka black superstars, and I just talked about Dick Allen, which is a story in of itself. Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, and everything. They brought black folks back to the ballpark. They really did.
That's dope. That's dope right there. Hey, OJ, man, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at on Twitter or any of your social media.
So you certainly can find me on Twitter at OJ Philly. Also Instagram. I post some of my stories there on Instagram too. Same thing, OJ Philly. I have a Facebook fan page, which is OJ Spivey /journalist. I post a lot of content on there as well. And of course, you can always find my work at phillytrib.com.
Yes, sir.
For the Philadelphia Tribune.
Yes, sir. OJ, man, we appreciate you, brother. It's a good conversation, man. We appreciate you putting this on, giving us some, showing some Philly energy over here, man. And we look forward to seeing you in the future, talking to you in the future, bro.
Maestro Trey, it's been a pleasure. It was a lot of fun, man. Listen, anytime. And I just thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys. I love what you're doing.
Appreciate it. That's
no
love.
doubt, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man. Take it
all
easy.
Right, man.
Have
Be
a great
safe
night,
out
man.
here.
All right, you two guys. Be safe.
All
right. Peace. So that was the brother OJ Spivey from the Philadelphia Tribune right there. Make sure y'all check him out on Twitter at OJ Philly and some of his articles too. Writes some dope stuff as well. I know we don't got much time, bro, but I did want to get your thoughts about what's been going on with Ed Reed, with Bethune-Cookman.
I don't even know no more, man. Look, I'll start from the first thing I've seen. The first thing I heard, he was. This is what did. I've been going back and forth with this, Trey. As a future coach, you get ready, your office, if you work at an office, college, you shouldn't walk into a dirty office. You shouldn't. I don't care who you are, where you are, you know what I'm saying? And that's just one of the stories he told. That's just one of the first story that I saw when this whole fiascos, got started.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, at first I was like, yeah, Aaron, like if you don't like it, air it out. That's kind of the energy I be on a lot of times. But then I thought about it. He the coach, or he was, lining up to be the coach. He wasn't like, he's not like a player. He's not like he was getting ready to be hired as a leader of young men. To coach a football team, and there is, whether he likes it or not, a standard into which he has to deliver messages. Mm-hmm. It's not so much that I have an issue with him criticizing some of the practices, and I even saw on Twitter, I don't know how true or untrue it is, but students are complaining about filthy conditions in the dorm rooms. And posted pictures of moldy sheets and shit like that.
Yeah.
And for me, that is an issue that should be addressed. And we all know that social media is probably the best way you could protest and get shit done nowadays.
Yep.
So, if he's culpable, if he's accountable for anything, he's accountable for his language. As somebody who was looking to be the head coach, I don't know what his conversations were like with the AD or the people in charge before he went to social media. I would hope that he went and attempted to have those types of conversations with them first before he, got frustrated one day on a Saturday and started posting and going all crazy. But look, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think you was going to keep your job after talking to people like that or talking about people like that? That's not reasonable. That's not reasonable to think that you're going to keep your job after you just like I can't go on social media and just start airing out the company that I work for.
Yeah.
And expect to keep my job. That's just what it is. Even if he's right, even if I'm right. You can't. That's just not the way to go about it. And as a leader of young men, he has to be better in that respect. And so, with that, it pains me to say, he should have been fired.
So I'll start with the school. So I guess an important key here, and this happened to Dion over at Jackson State. He didn't get his contract right away. They just agreed that he was going to be the head coach, and then sometime later down the line, they drafted up his contract to be the head coach.
Right.
Same situation here with Bethune-Cookman and Ed Reed. So after that conversation about him being the head coach, immediately after that was the IG video about the conditions and how we had to clean stuff up, and he sounded passionate about what he was saying, but he was also, lacing profanity in the IG video. I hope, and I pray for Ed Reed. I hope Ed Reed is okay, from a mental standpoint.
Man, you really thought it might be? You really think it might be that?
And I don't want to speculate. I don't want to say that he has something, kind of going back to his NFL playing days. I don't want to put it in concrete that, oh, he's got CTE or, oh, he's going through this, he's going through that. I'll tell you a quick story. So, Saturday, I took Nate to a birthday party, and one of the parents at the party and we were talking about the Ed Reed situation, and one of the things he told me was, because he's a season ticket holder, so when the Ravens have like these alumni night games where they invite old players in and stuff, he says that like whenever Ed Reed comes back to the stadium, he be having a drink with him like all the time and stuff.
Okay. And
so he alluded to the fact that he may be drinking because of some of the pain that he suffered while he was, during his playing days. Because, Ed Reed, while he was known for a ball hawk, he did hit a lot during his career.
He played football. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he played football.
Right.
It could have an adverse effect on anybody.
Of course. And so, he said that, and I kind of thought about it for a minute, and then I watched the interview with him and I guess whoever was representing him on Roland Martin's show, and Ed Reed just kind of lashed out. And I'm not trying to say that it was directed towards Roland Martin, but again, Ed Reed was emotional about the situation.
Sure.
While his guy who's supposed to be representing him is trying to speak for him, but Ed just kind of, lashed out and just kind of spoke his piece, and then his rep continued to talk to Roland Martin about the conditions and stuff. So,
right.
So that's why I'm saying I want to pray for Ed Reed, because I hope he's okay, and I hope it's nothing that's mental, that that's something going on with him, in the brain wise and all that. There were students that did protest in front of the school. I saw some video of that the other day, and so you mentioned it. Social media being the best way to get these issues out to the forefront, and I think the kids really did a good job of doing that, as far as mold conditions and even for real, how this school is being funded. This is a HBCU. Lord knows how many other of these schools, of these HBCUs, are struggling like this, or even have these kinds of conditions. So I think what I take from it is that I'm learning a couple of lessons. Number one, awareness is very pivotal when it comes to trying to get things corrected, make sure things are, make sure things are being run the right way. Like, no kid should have to live in a dorm and be worrying about mold. Nobody should have to worry about that. And number two, for me, just kind of going back to Ed Reed and the job, I think both of these parties, one being Ed Reed, the other being the school, I think both these parties knew, or they should have known, who each one of them were, right? Like, if you're trying to hire Ed Reed, you kind of got to know, hey, Ed Reed is very passionate about things that he cares about. If you're Ed Reed, you should have known that this school was having some issues with their living conditions, and so it sucks. I think all around it sucks for everybody involved. We don't get to see the quote unquote the torch being passed from Dion to another familiar,
not yet,
former face of the NFL to take over HBCU. We don't get to see that. Not
yet.
Right. And we have to see these terrible conditions, that these students are living through. So
I think my final thought on this and to this situation, not just the Ed Reed situation, but to the HBCU situation, to any former NFL player that's looking to follow in the steps of Deion Sanders, you should know this. And I don't know why this isn't obvious or apparent, but you should know this. You are attempting to uplift the HBCU, who is below the standard of regular PWI top 5, power conference schools. You are below the totem pole. Deion Sanders spent money, his own personal money, and used his own personal resources to get Jackson State to where they got to. So anybody who's trying to step into this has to understand that you may be spending your personal money, you may be spending your personal time, you may be spending your personal resources in order to do what Deion did for Jackson State in the short time he was in Jackson State. So I don't think that Ed Reed knew what he was going into and what and the magnitude of what he was doing by being Ed Reed, Hall of Famer Ed Reed, going to Bethune-Cookman and trying to coach football in order to bring well, let me say this. I don't know if he was trying to do the Deion. He may have just been trying to coach. So
sure.
So then there's always that.
But at the end of the day, he's Ed Reed.
this is what you signed up for,
Yeah.
whether you knew you signed up for it or not. These are the types of things that is going to be landing at your doorstep when you come to a HBCU. So if you really want to be around your people and you really want to help your people, then just know your people need help.
Yeah. Well said, man. And like I said, man, I just pray for everybody in the situation. Ed Reed, the school, the kids. These conditions. Hey, y'all gotta improve these conditions, y'all. It's nasty business out there, and no kid. If I was a parent of one of them kids, I'd pull them right out of there. In a hurry. So, shout out to everybody involved, and hopefully, there's brighter days moving forward with that. Just want to say what up to BS3 in the Facebook live chat. Also, we got the greatest DeMarcus up in here in the Facebook live chat too. Thanks to OJ Spivey.
Yes, sir.
Dope conversation with him. Shout out to everybody watching us on our platforms, Twitter Live, YouTube, Facebook Live. Continue to follow us on those platforms. Click the like button on the Facebook page. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at Barbershop SPOR2. You can also hit us up on the Instagram account at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. And if you got any questions, comments, you want to hit us up on the email, you can hit us up at barbershopsportstalk1@gmail.com. And if you're listening on any of those platforms, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, drop us a review. Let us know what you think. This has been dope, my brother.
Yes, sir.
So you and I are in lockstep. Philly, Kansas City Super Bowl. That's where we at with it.
No, we are not. We are not.
You picking the Bengals?
I'm picking the Bengals. I'm picking the Bengals, man.
And the reality of it is that they really might win the Super Bowl.
Now that I'm not sure about. I don't know that they're winning the Super Bowl. Philly is too good in the trenches.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Yeah, Philly is superior in the trenches. And see, the reason why I'm picking Cincinnati is not so much the high ankle sprain. I mean, it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
They don't have a receiver in Kansas City that can do what AJ Brown or Devontae Smith do. Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm skipping to the next game. I'm sorry. I skipped to the Super Bowl. Kansas City doesn't have a Jamar Chase, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They don't have a Jamar Chase, and quite frankly, that was a big factor in the prior games. It was normally Jamar Chase. They're kind of neck and neck, and then Jamar Chase opens the game up.
Yeah.
I think that similar thing is going to happen on Sunday. That similar thing is going to happen where they're kind of going to go neck and neck. Patrick Mahomes is going to Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow is going to Joe Burrow. But then when it's time for the game to open up, Jamar Chase is a top 10 wide receiver in this game, and they don't have that in Kansas City.
Mahomes could not move. When he came back on the field, he could not move on that ankle. Like, you saw him try to go for a first down, and he just kind of went down. And then you saw him try to throw a jump pass, and he just kind of limped on the jump pass. I'm praying on some Mahomes magic in this one. We'll see what happens there, man. Listen, man, fun show as always.
Yeah, I'm gonna upload, eat some swine, and go to sleep.
No doubt. Everybody out there, y'all have a great week, great weekend. We'll be back next Tuesday with another dope show. And as always, mind your own business.
And drink some water. Rest in peace, Miss Barbara.
Recording stopped.